Hi. So, did you see the results of the election that took place in West Bengal? I'm not going to talk about whether what I think about it. What I'm getting at is that uh, is something that I can't get to without giving a preamble to what I'm saying, what I'm going to talk about. Uh, there was videos of rallies that had taken place, that were conducted by both the parties, the major parties, and let's just say the party that has won. I did not like the way the leader was talking. You have a certain image of women uh, behaving in a certain way. They never losing their cool, or they don't cross a certain line that you have in your mind for them. So I didn't see that happen in the rally. uh, and as for the PM, he's a fine orator, but since his party has lost, so people in the state in West Bengal, they might have not seen some things that they are looking for. So this is what I'm getting at is, oftentimes, which includes me, I've been swayed by the way people speak. So going by just the rally of the leader uh, who's won the election in West Bengal, I would have never voted for her. But people are not as gullible as we think. They may have seen something special, they may have seen her performance all these years, and on the basis of that, they have voted for her. So, what I was thinking now, purely from economics point of view, uh, I'm making these videos because I want to distract myself from the things that are happening in the country. They are not, they're not heartening. There are people in vicinity who are losing their lives, and it can get on to you if you don't shut your eyes and look elsewhere after doing what you can. This is one time you can't do much. There is a limit to what you can do, and we do that whatever we can. So so I coming back to the election part, because I'm hoping that very soon things will normalize, though I don't plan to divert my attention to politics even after the pandemic situation is handled. However, since I'm also a voter, just like you, just like everyone, there are certain things that I thought about. What if, purely from economics point of view, there was no government? What would happen? Like always, I've made some points. You may have read about the invisible hand. This was a concept given by Adam Smith, father of economics. So he said that people are driven by self-interest, and in the process, they do a lot of good to the economy of a country, of a place. Like, even if there was no government, there would be demand and supply dynamics, and those dynamics would bring the market into equilibrium. What do you mean by equilibrium? Equilibrium, when things will keep adjusting themselves. So people will continue to buy things that are cheaper, and will forego or minimalize uh, uh, their needs for expensive things. And why would certain things would be cheaper? Because there would be a shortage of certain things. Just a moment. Yeah, so there would be certain things that would have their shortage, and so would be some certain things uh, that are abundantly available, and they would be cheaper. So this is how the market would work, will operate most efficiently. Now, ideally, if this is the only thing that's there, why would we need a government at all? Why would a country need a government to run their economy? Because economy, as I read somewhere, is an animal that can keep itself alive. You don't need extra outside force to manage things. It can sustain itself. Then why we need government? For the placebo effect. It has a placebo effect. Oh, I have not written here. Placebo, as you may have read in connection to homeopathy, it's the psychological effect that gives you assurance. So having a government would give that sense of assurance to everyone, that there is somebody who would take care of those things that we individuals in our individual capacity may not take care of, like the foreign affairs, security. We can, as individuals, as an independent unit in form of family, we can take care of n number of things, but we can't take care of our frontiers, our country's frontiers. We can't take care of foreign affairs. We can't take care of currency. If we want to have foreign currency, if we want to exchange it for our own currency, and the list is big. So those are the things for which we need the government. So other than that, as far as domestic matters are concerned, what else do we need our government for? So we need it just to regulate things. Which means, what do you mean by regulate? It means to regularize things, nothing more. So if there is shortage of something or there's too much of something, they would be regularized. So if some people have too much wealth, excess of something, and some people have too less of it, that would be regularized. And how would it be regularized? Through legal tautness. So that's what we need the government for. If we are clear that we need it, we need a government, what do we do with it? What does the government do with itself? Just work efficiently so that people feel assured, reassured, and regulate things by really making the legal system taut enough so that property rights are protected. Property rights are in place. Their patenting is in place, or everything that's connected to economy. Okay, so that people don't charge too much from their customers. And people in the margins, the entrepreneurs in the margins, they get a fair chance to earn themselves a living. So here's something else that we need the government for. All those I have mentioned it in my, this is just a background because I'm going to come to the election bit later on. Not very, it won't take very long. So all those people who have been even remotely connected to it's not visible, is it? No, yeah. Connected to economics, they would know that manufacturing is like a magic wand. It can change everything. So manufacturing is equal to economic growth. Even in India, all those states that have high percentage of manufacturing units like Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Gujarat, UP, Andhra Pradesh, their state GDP is the highest. And all those states who do not have manufacturing units, their state GDP is the lowest. So what more evidence does one need? So it's so clear what can change things for a certain region. So if, other than, it's a part of the assurance that, the sense of assurance that the government can create among people is to see through certain very simple straightforward tools which region is lagging behind, and on the basis of it lagging behind they can formulate policies for having more to develop more manufacturing in regions that are lagging behind. Yeah, what have I written? Yes. And why would we need other than state GDP? GDP is the total product, domestic product of that particular state. If you have more manufacturing units, unlike agriculture that has a lot of disguised unemployment, here we will have real employment, concrete employment. People will go in the morning, work whole day, come back in the evening, and will have a certain amount of compensation at the end of the week or month or whatever is decided. So after they get their employment, the inequality in that region comes down, which is actually welfare, and this should be the goal of the government. So first is regulating things, regulating the economy in such a way that there are no shortage, no excess. Second, development of regions that are lagging behind by a straightforward technique of developing manufacturing units there. Now, for a place to develop, for entrepreneurs to start on their own without looking at the government's face all the time, what we need to do is here I have written that just find which state is lagging behind and facilitate factors of production in that particular state. Availability, make it easier. What do you mean by factors of production? Labor, all those factors that are instrumental in production: labor, land, capital, fuel, and distribution to an extent. All those all those ways, not devices, all those instruments that help in distribution. All right. So what we let's take an example of labor first. I'll talk about labor productivity later on, because labor is the most dynamic factor. You can actually change it while the production is going on. It doesn't happen with capital, definitely not with fixed capital. If you bought machinery, equipments, you've built yourself a factory or an office space, you can't change it every now and then. But for labor, you can change things. It's very dynamic. As for now, in India we have 73% people who are literate. Now let me underline the fact that these people are just literate. That is, they can read and write. It's not that they're educated or have in-depth knowledge about anything. So the illiterate labor is 73%, which leaves 27% of the population is completely illiterate, out of which 60% are women. This is not all. There is a lot of skill gap. So many people have enrolled themselves in engineering colleges, and according to a few studies, only 80% of these engineers are employable, because being an engineer, they are not able to engineer processes, products. They are not able to create all these things. So how come, what good are they if they are not able to innovate in the field that they have gotten their education in? All right. Besides these very concrete problems with the labor, there are other things that we need to pay attention to, that the government needs to pay attention to, and that's how proficient they are. What are their work ethics? Because Here we talk about work ethics because there are states that are most corrupt and their GDP, or let's say their labor productivity, is not very high. So there are different places where it's written that Bihar is most corrupt. At places it's written that Rajasthan is immaterial. What needs to be known is that you ought to have work ethics. When you're working at a place, have ethics. Everything else will follow. You should be proficient in what you're doing. You should be motivated in what you're doing, so proficiency comes. Then you should be dedicated. You're not doing, if you're away wasting time while you should be at work, whichever work, then you are not dedicated to your calling. And so such people reach nowhere. You should be professional. So these are the soft skills. So this is something that can happen with more and more exposure. This is something which the government can actually take care of, the skill gap which is there, and the literacy level can still be worked upon. There is something else also that the government should be doing when it comes to facilitating or regularizing the factors of production, and that is the top management of most companies. According to certain studies, they are earning more than 200 times than the lower management bracket, lower management employees. While the lockdown was still on, I had some problem with the internet. We called people. There were people, technicians, people who came in. Now that was pretty harsh summer. It's still going on. Today is a relatively pleasant day. And this person who would turn up every now and then to make things okay, because things were still not improving for a while, he didn't look very wealthy, and he must be in his late 50s. He didn't seem to earn a lot of money. Now this was the guy who was slogging hard, and there were people who were taking away crores as their CTC, annual CTC, and they were sitting at home in the lockdown period. They have their own importance, but then the point that I'm trying to make is, you don't have fair distribution of compensation. So there was this statement that I read from a speech in Harvard University that said, fire all the top brass people, fire all the managers. So this is, I remember, was it 2000, early 2000s? Yeah, I guess it was Dr. Manmohan Singh, our former prime minister, who said that, and I really liked what he said. He said that top management employees voluntarily should give up so much of salary that they are taking home, because they are also in this process raising prices of certain commodities, because the market understands there are certain people who can pay for the exorbitant prices that they are quoting, and in the process general inflation rises. So this is clear cut. Alright, so summarizing things again, let's just go back. Regulate things, make things, make an economy where there are no shortages, no excess, and develop manufacturing, insert manufacturing units in places which are lagging behind, and all those people who would become entrepreneurs even if you were not there, even if the government was not there. Don't make things harder for them, because you know you have to regulate labor, then work on the problems that labor has. Labor as a huge factor of production has. The second problem is capital. Capital in our country is available at presently at the interest rate of 13.5. Actually, it's between 13 and 14 mostly. And there is the processing fee also 2-3%, 2 to 3%. So it's pretty expensive. Capital by any stretch of imagination is not easily available. We don't have as strong a financial market as we should have, because most developed nations make credit so easy that the entrepreneurship or the entrepreneurship or private sector expands as proportionally. The next point is fuel, electricity, and certain places, in order to woo the voters, electricity is very cheap, like Delhi, and there is consequent improvement of late in the number of industrial units that you have. Their cost has come down, so they are really making profits, not in the pandemic times, but otherwise they were in a comfortable zone. Therefore, they don't even want to think of losing this chief minister, even if he goes wrong anywhere, because of the perks that they get. Then petrol. So ideally a government should make things easier for the entrepreneur. So petrol, international price of petrol is 37, but today, as of today, you had the price in the country is around 100. So rest of the 66-67 rupee is all VAT. State takes a certain amount, 21% or something, 26 or 27% or something the government takes, that's the central government takes, and then 5 to 6% is the dealership, the person who owns the petrol pump. Then alright, so after that, the monetary policy and the fiscal policy. So if you make changes in the interest rates, it's going to take a little bit of a time. Things don't happen quickly. So if you slash the interest rates for the entrepreneurs, not that the very next day there would be jobs created. It's a time-taking process. It does take a year to show its results. Whereas fiscal policy, it shows results. It shows almost immediate results in the in the behavior of the taxpayer, because now if their less taxes are cut, they'll spend more, and so on. And if there are more taxes, there would be less of savings. This is monetary and fiscal policy that is included in the functions of the government. After which, what happens in crisis? Government is usually expected to do some government spending in form of building infrastructure, etc., etc. We all know what government spending is. So what happens when government spends? Basically, it takes taxes from rich people, more able people, and put it into projects and give employment to people who would just spend it. So the consumption level will go up and the demand will go up. The economy for a while will look vibrant, but it will not show any long-term effect on the productivity growth. The real goal of all economies should be that there should be a consistent productivity growth. What is productivity growth? With lesser usage of factor of production, you are able to create more, or with the same usage, with lesser amount of factors of production employment, you're able to create as much, or with more with the same, you're able to create more. You got it. There has to be some tangible some quantifiable increase in the productivity. So that can be found out through a technical thing, but it is an awesome tool. And this is, I did my thesis using this tool. This is total factor productivity. So what you usually include in this productivity is partial factor productivity of labor and partial factor productivity of capital. So there is a direct method, and that you after taking square root of their product, you come to, this is the easiest method. Otherwise there are several ways of calculating total factor productivity. So you see India's total factor productivity was 3.5 in 2005 and 9.3, which is quite cool, in the next year. And then in 2000, cut to say after 10 years, you have 1.6, dismal. To 2018, 2.4, not good. So whenever finally I'm coming to the conclusion, because for some odd reason my videos get very long. I always intend to keep them short, but they get long. So as long as the world is not dealing with some major economic crises like we have these days, please pay attention to the total factor productivity in the time a government was in power, and make compensation for global economic crises or some major domestic crises. Other than that, if you want to go vote for somebody, just don't go vote for that person because he or she is an excellent orator or has a personality. Pay attention to the TFP, because in all developed nations, the total factor productivity, that is all factors rolled into one, is more than 8% or close to 8%. What did I just say? What did I just write in my on my page, that on my paper? It was that ours these days, India's total factor productivity in 2017 was 1.6 and 2.4 in 2018. Bad, isn't it? Really. So just pay attention next time you go to vote for the government. Have they been consistently bad? Then they don't deserve it. They may have a heart of gold, but if they don't know how to perform, just skip. This is what I think. Take your call, but just integrate this this particular point while you decide which party to vote for. And one more thing, TFP data is not readily available. You have to really search for it, and this is not cool. The government should make it easily available, but they just don't do that, because then that can really be too revelatory. Anyway, okay. The second thing was, and I think it's a very important point. Whenever you officially appoint anyone to do a certain job, they will expect to be adequately compensated for it. They will be driven by self-interest. Okay, so I'm doing so much for so many people. What am I getting in return? So that's what government does. It's an industry. Government is not there to do charity. They are not saver. Or maybe one or two or three may have that kind of an approach, which is so cool. It's just so nice. But not all of them. They're driven by, they have a house and to run. They have to save enough amount that can be sufficient for generations to come. That's what they come into this industry for. So if welfare has to be created, private individuals will have to come forward and do some public service, create some genuine non-profit organizations, because when they do all these things on their own accord, they don't expect anything. If you expect government to do it, they'll cut their commission. So this was one point. Check the TFP, total factor productivity, that was there in while a government was in power. Did the manufacturing units, did the number increase while they were in power? That's another point. Are they talking about some distracting issues like religion? Are they polarizing things, the society? Not that it is bad or anything, because they all have their approaches, but they are simply futile subjects. At the end of the day, what really matters is how economically economically sound you are. If you are economically sound, you will never pay attention. You will never be drawn to such. Nobody's religion or faith is in danger. Everyone is happy. If you're economically sound, look at UAE. They are just work-oriented people. I'm really impressed with the way they operate. Alright, look out for the qualification of the ministers. Just like, you have such a grueling test for bureaucrats if you want to be an IAS, if you want to be an administrative officer. You don't need to have that much in-depth knowledge if you're a minister. Don't be like a completely ignorant person. There are so many ministers who know nothing of the ministry that they are handling. They learn things on job. When they get the job, it's like on the job training. So there should be some kind of knowledge that we should try and extract from them. We should know what is their vision. What exactly do they know? Do they know anything about the economy? If you're talking about economy, do they know anything about agriculture? Do they know about fabrics for the textile ministry? Do they really know about education, the real problems, or are they anyways? So that's that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. TFP, no distracting issues, manufacturing units, and other than that, private individuals come forward. Don't depend too much on government, because they can be very expensive workers. Yeah, bye.